My husband is cheating on me with my best friend. I sent him screenshots of his conversation with her and my conversation with a Tinder guy I'm meeting on Friday. Plus update. Original post. I, female 29, had to move for a few months to a different city for my studies. I moved in September and I'll stay here until June. My sister called me to say that I saw him with my best friend. We wouldn't have thought anything about it if my sister didn't say that she had a sense that they looked caught. I logged into his phone and saw the texts, including the ones discussing the interaction with my sister. I sent him all the screenshots. I also made a Tinder account and started talking with the guy. We got flirty and planned to meet on Friday, and I took screenshots and sent them to my husband too. Now he has been calling and texting me since yesterday. "Please, baby, don't do it," he said. But I don't think I hurt him as much as he hurt me. Now for the top comments before reading the update. I think if you plan on divorcing, you'll have more of a leg to stand on if you don't provide evidence of your Friday tryst. Totally get it in an emotional level though. Sorry this is happening. Devastating. The first time my abusive hubby cheated on me, I found out in the worst possible way. Went to the ER to get treated for a urinary tract infection. Doctor comes in after running tests and says, "You don't have a UTI, you have chlamydia." I called my husband and told him he had best get checked, and to call his girlfriend to get checked too. He started accusing me of being the cheater. I went back home because I had nowhere else to go. A few days later, my best friend called me in hysterics, saying her husband was going to end her. I asked what was wrong, and she said she got diagnosed with chlamydia. That friendship ended. Unfortunately, I was stupid and stayed with him. I ran from him for 24 years. I left him a total of 4 times. The last time was when he hit me while I was holding our newborn. He chased me up and down the East Coast and even threatened to off us. I found out about a month ago that he has been dead the past 2 years. I don't have to run anymore, but I think it is gonna take a while for me not to be scared anymore. Baby girl, don't set yourself aflame trying to scorch his earth. Don't reveal any details of getting your lick back, if that's what you plan to do and go through with it. The husband and the best friend though? Same age-old tale. Different Opie. No, contact both, especially the best friend. There's no coming back from that, and you'll never trust her again. Your friendship is dead. Her marriage is dead too after I'm finished with my husband. Not saying you're the same, but when I cheated to get back at a significant other, it did not give me the satisfaction I hoped. Just be careful and expect some emotional fallout, even if it's not immediate. Sometimes it doesn't come until the rage settles. I agree. I once tried to get back at a cheating girlfriend after we broke up, but it fell through. Later, when I was over the cheating in a relationship, I was so glad it fell through. Deep down, I didn't want to be like her. Cancel on a Tinder guy and set up appointments to find your perfect divorce lawyer. Gather your documents and don't say a thing to your husband about your stealth divorce. Be strategic. Serve it cold and calculated. Now for the update. I found out more about the cheating and I guess my husband thought an explanation would make it better in any way. It just ended up making it worse. Much, much worse. Of course, I haven't spoken to him in person because that is what he wants and that is what I won't give him. I've just been reading his frantic messages that he's been sending me because I don't pick up. I live in another city for my last semester of school. It was something that we both believed we can manage. And let's face it, real couples who share real love do manage it. I visit home every other weekend and he comes here every other weekend. The weeks that I only have lectures that don't require physical presence, I stay with him and do them online. I knew it was going to be hard because it is hard to be apart from your loved one. But never did I think that he would cheat and use being lonely and missing me as an excuse. But that was his excuse. That this was harder than he expected and that he missed me all the time. He met my best friend on coincidence one day, and he lamented how much he missed me and hated being apart, and she was supportive and understanding. Then it happened, all because he missed me. Can you imagine leaving your home and the people you know and love to be stuck in a city where you don't know anyone and have no family and friends, and read your husband make that excuse? I called my best friend's husband on Friday and told him everything. I wanted to know everything before I ruined another marriage, especially because she and her husband have 2 children. I apologized to him and told him that I wasn't sure if he wanted to know or not, but that he would probably eventually hear about it, and maybe it is better that he heard it from me rather than gossipy acquaintances. He was shocked and devastated, but he thanked me. We ended up talking for 4 hours trying to remember if we missed any red flags, and how stupid we must have been not noticing any. I've heard that he has moved out with his children. The only text I got from her was that I was vindictive, and not to worry because her husband loves her and that I didn't succeed in my revenge. I've been living in an Airbnb these past few days because I knew that my husband would try to visit me, and I was right. He is currently in my apartment. I ended up meeting the Tinder guy for drinks. He knows that I am newly single and only in town for a few months, and that I'm not looking for anything serious right now. I shared a picture of our drinks on Insta story and made sure that his arm showed. My phone went mental with texts and calls from my husband. Over 100 calls and 100 texts. To be honest, I felt that I needed to meet someone to talk to anyway. While I know few people here, I don't really have any friends, so it was nice to just meet and talk to someone. He is very good looking too, so I will definitely keep in touch. And he texted me yesterday about meeting again. So nothing happened on Friday. Eventually it will. I know that I will never hurt my husband the way he hurt me because I don't believe he ever loved me like I loved him. He hurt me because I love him. I hurt him because he loves himself. He and your best friend are both pieces of trash. I lived apart from my husband in different cities for the first couple of years of our relationship. We saw each other weekly like you. Sure, it is not fun to be apart. But it's certainly not like being abandoned, and it would never cause any normal, faithful partner to immediately rush into betting your best friend. He cheated because he wanted to cheat, and because you weren't around to find out, it made him feel guilty. Exactly. He cheated because he knew I wasn't around, and he brought her to my home, twice, before realizing he was being a douche. Don't ever go back to your husband, and your ex-BFF is a POS too. I hope her husband divorces her. He will. I've heard gossip, and he actually spilled all the tea. He doesn't think she is worth saving a marriage for. Haha, good. Too bad for the kids, but she only has herself to blame. I know, but I don't think it is better for the children to have parents who don't love each other. Yeah, I spent my entire childhood wondering why the hell my parents were even married, and wondering when they would just break up. It was because my mom got pregnant with my brother. It was a pregnancy marriage. My dad finally had enough, and they finally divorced when I was 18. I couldn't believe it took 20 years. And when it happened, I was not shocked. I thought it was gonna happen many, many years ago. I hope your ex-best friend's husband leaves her. Hopefully she ends up with your crappy ex, so they don't go ruining more marriages. I don't know if they end up together or not. It would rid the world of two a-holes if they ended up together and stopped hurting others. My ex was with a wannabe gold digger. They got married 30 days after our final decree. It wasn't long before they were both cheating again. She thought he was on a fast corporate track. They made my life hell because I got the stock options, half his pension, alimony, and child support. I laughed when I heard he was hiding the credit cards, and he emailed that he was, "Oh, I'm so sorry, and want all our good times back." When I replied, I said, "They really weren't that good for me. No thanks. Been divorced for 28 years and he still tries to play me. Really hope you don't have a kid with this guy, or go back. Sure, you deserve better." Next story. My husband is too busy and too important to care about our children, and I'm sick of it. My husband is a surgeon, and according to him, he's the most important person in the world. A god among men who casually determines life or death, and is far, far too important to be bothered by the trivial concerns of us mere peons. Concerns like maybe you should spend some time with your freaking girls? But oh no, you see, he works so hard and has so much pressure that when he's home, he has to be sequestered from the annoying sounds of our girls playing. Or, being happy to see him? My dad has picked up the slack. He's been the one that changed their diapers. I drop them off at school and go to work. Dad picks them up and stays with them till I get home. My dad was the one who taught them to ride a bike. My dad is the one who shows up to the plays and dance recitals. He's the one that helps with the homework. My dad is the one who dresses as Santa. My dad is the one who does the Easter egg hunts and tea parties. My husband is far too important for any of that. And despite the fact that my husband has absolutely no interest in our kids, he's still mad that the kids are closer to my dad and him. So my dad is now struggling financially. We have the means to help him, but my husband doesn't want to. I'd rather see my dad move to the other side of the country and removed from our kids' lives. I put my foot down and he goes on to Reddit to whine about it. Well, now I'm here too, dear. You want to whine about our marriage on Reddit? I can do it too. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Your dad's a great dad and grandpa. Your kids will know that. The kids love him. He's been a daily fixture in their lives since they were born. They know him better than they know their father. Maybe it's time to put dad on a payroll for all the caregiving duties. It's not money given to him, but money owed to him for the work he does. I work with doctors, including surgeons. I don't know a single male surgeon that doesn't have a side chick and is not divorced, often multiple times. Surgeons are a mess, and they are the last people I would ever date. Yes, I know there are good ones, but they're extremely rare. My ex-fiance's dad was a surgeon, and while we were dating, he introduced his entire family to his side chick and moved her into their home, instructing his grown sons to call her mom name and his then wife move into the guest room. She eventually moved into an apartment and then ended herself 6 months later. The callousness that all of those men showed that woman was what broke us up. I couldn't believe it. His dad had no accountability or remorse. I have quite a number of friends that work in the medical field, from nurses to consultants, and without hesitation, if you ask them who the worst group of people they work with are, they'll say surgeons. Their takes are almost identical. Brilliant at what they do, but emotionally stunted, and almost devoid of basic life or social skills. One very talented surgeon that used to work with a pal of mine had to be told not to put metal in a microwave. Twice. They always mentioned an exception to the rule, and it took 15 years for me to realize they were all talking about the same guy. I thought it was just a generalization. Surely this can't be all of them. Then I went on a date with one, and Jesus Christ. I spent most of that time wondering how they are allowed to leave the house unsupervised. You must have the patience of a saint. Get your dad in the pool house, and best of luck. Also, apologies to the lovely well-adjusted surgeons out there. You do great work. Now for the update. Wow, this all blew up. I was so angry when I posted this. Now I'm just drained. He came by yesterday to pick up some things and we argued. The girls were out with my dad because I knew this would be a fight and I didn't want them around for this. He said awful things, just awful, about me, my dad, and the girls. After he left, I talked to my mom. We have a difficult relationship, but if there's one person I want in my corner going into the divorce, it's her. The divorce is happening. I saw an attorney my mom recommended today. I'm really glad I went through that prenup my mom wanted when we got married now. At this point, I won't speak to my soon-to-be ex-husband. My lawyer is doing my talking for me. I'm exhausted. Thank you everyone for all the support. It helped to read the comments and know people supported me. He made me feel so small and stupid yesterday, and he said awful things about our girls. I'm not mad anymore. I'm just heartbroken. Our girls deserve better than this. I really wanted better for them. I just wanted to have a family and a nice home. Now I'm just going through a divorce like my parents. I never wanted this. I tried so hard to keep this all together so we didn't wind up here. But I've failed. Update 2. I've been getting a lot of questions and requests for an update, so I'll keep this short. We are moving forward with the divorce. He's moved out and dad's moved in. The kids are good. Last story. Who knew that all I had to do was to give them my blessing for my husband and his mistress to break up? I've known about his infidelity for 10 months now when he almost missed the birth of our baby. We had a planned C-section, but our daughter decided she couldn't wait, and I called him all morning confused and terrified, in pain, because I was scheduled 2 weeks later. My mom finally got hold of him. He smelled disgusting. My way, a perfume that I really hate. He looked more guilty than excited, and he smelled disgusting. Anyway, when we got home, I looked in his phone and found out about them. I don't know how he has been able to fool me, or was I just blind? I told him that I knew, and he tried to deny it and I didn't argue. When I didn't argue, he probably felt relieved that I had dropped it. Or maybe he thought I believed him. One day, he came home late and he smelled of my way again, and I broke down crying and begging him to stop. To choose our family. To choose me. I love you. He just denied it again and I didn't argue again. I told him that I hated what he was doing and that I hated her disgusting perfume. I don't think it mattered because he was working late again not a week later. The day after New Year's Day, I took my children to town because I convinced myself that I needed to do some shopping. I found myself walking around his office around lunchtime looking inside restaurants. I thought that after the holidays keeping them apart, they would be wanting to have lunch together on their first day at work. My heart was racing and my stomach churning. I thought that if I saw them together, I would faint or even die. But none of this happened. I found them as I expected in the restaurant he used to take me to whenever I visited him. I was surprised that hurt and humiliation I was expecting and fearing didn't come. Instead, I felt calm and relief, like something big and heavy was lifted from my heart. I even felt embarrassed that he was as predictable as I thought. I think I stopped having any feelings for him right that moment. It reeked of my way in the whole restaurant, or maybe I just imagined it. I told them that I wasn't there to cause trouble, but that I needed to see for myself. I told her that she had won and that now she could have him. I told him that if he followed after me, that I would scream, because he was about to. When he got home, he wanted to talk. I told him that I wasn't angry or hurt anymore. He could be with her. For almost 2 weeks now, they have been arguing and fighting over text, because he ended the affair. I will never understand how some people function. Why weren't my tears and pleas enough for him to end it? But my blessings were. Because illicit affair, mistrust, and gaslighting you are thrilling, and power games that make them feel important and like special snowflakes. Impending divorce, STD check, lawyers, alimony and child support, home wrecker? don't have quite the same sexy flavor to them. Right, he didn't want to be with her. He wanted to bed her, sneak around, and get a rush from feeling like a young hot guy while his wife stays stuck at home with the kids. Now that he's facing only having the side chick, he probably doesn't want to be a stepmother to the kids of a man she knows firsthand cannot be trusted not to wonder. He's panicking about losing his actual partner, home, money, and time with his kids. I hope Opie doesn't waver, because a man that is out cheating when his wife is not only pregnant but due to give birth in the next few weeks is a huge POS. He also didn't think she would leave him over it. He loved the idea of two women wanting him. When one of them noped out of the competition and the one that noped out was the one wanted, he quit the game. It was no longer fun having a woman he didn't really want chasing after him. Too bad for him. He blew up his life for a woman he doesn't want and lost the one he did want. Please tell me you are filing for divorce. Eventually. Am I the a-hole because I, 32 female, refused to put my boyfriend, 33 male, on my life insurance and left my ex, 33 male, on it? Plus update. Original post. I, 32 female, have an ex, 33 male, and we have 2 children, 10 female and 9 male. My ex and I had a difficult start in life. I felt pregnant pretty quickly after we started dating. Our daughter was born with leukemia, and we spent the first few years of our relationship in hospital. She's now in remission, thankfully. We also had another child during this time, and our son is autistic. After being together for 6 years, we split up indefinitely when our children were 6 and 5, which was very hard for me and him. After healing for about 1.5 years, I began dating my now boyfriend, who we'll call Jake. Jake was really lovely and kind, and took it slow with me. After a year, I introduced him to my kids. At first, my daughter was not very happy with the situation, but eventually she grew to tolerate him. Jake even has a civil relationship with my ex. Eventually, Jake moved in with my children and I, has been living with us for about 2 months now. When my daughter was born with leukemia, my ex and I had decided to both get separate life insurance just in case anything happened to us. When we originally got them, we decided that we would be each other's trustee. It also would receive 30% of the insurance and the rest would go on our child/children. After we had our son, we updated our life insurances with his name also on it. We have both still honored that. Our reasoning for this is that if one of us was to go while our children were still young, then the other would be left as a single parent and may need some support and stability. I still feel very strongly about this. Now on to the issue. Jake was cleaning up my files in my office when I was at work and had come across my life insurance agreement. While I was at work, he had sent me a message saying, "We need to discuss something important when you get home." Obviously, I was freaking out and tried calling him, but he would not answer me and said he was too angry to talk to me. I run my own business, so I took off early and drove home. Before I left, I messaged Jake to say I'm on my way home. When I arrived, I seen Jake on his sofa glaring at me when I arrived. He threw the life insurance papers at me and demanded to explain myself. I picked them up and asked what the problem was. He began to scream at me and said, "Why is your ex on your insurance and I'm not?" I explained to him my reasons above and he scoffed and said, "Well, you both make so much money now, you don't need to support one another." I was extremely angry at this and told him that it was not his business who I put in my life insurance. The money is mainly for my children and ex, and it will stay that way. Jake replied, "Well, I put so much work into this relationship, and I'm not going to get anything from it. No normal man would want a woman with 2 children who has issues." I saw red. I kicked him out and told him we were done. My children will always come first, and I will never let anyone get in the way of that. Jake packed his bags and left. While he was packing, he shouted at me that I never really got over my ex and we still love each other, blah blah blah. That he knew it from the start, and I'm such an a-hole for not putting him in my life insurance. So Reddit, I have to ask, am I the a-hole? Edit. I should have added that this did happen a few weeks ago. I haven't seen him since then, but constantly receiving messages from him and calls. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Gonna say not the a-hole, but also have to ask, has this situation come up before? Not the life insurance specifically, just him bringing up residual feelings for your ex, or a fear of getting uprooted and losing not just a partner, but at this point an entire family? The situation has never come up before. He does have his own children who are lovely. Him and his ex split because of insecurities on Jake's part. He constantly accused her of cheating and it tired her out. He has been cheated on before by a previous ex. I have tried telling him to get into therapy, but he refuses to go. He constantly compares himself to my ex and complaining I'm not over him. He says things like, "Oh, your ex is always around. Your ex didn't do this for you like I have. Your ex is better looking than me." My ex is around for our children and is a very active father. He was always there for me to help in the house, but since I've been with Jake, he only came around when it was about the children. I'm sorry you're in the situation you're in. Jake has to fix himself before he's ready for a relationship. And it sounds like you gave him stepping stones to do that, but he doesn't want to walk down the path. I hope everything works out for you, but you're definitely not the a-hole here. Not the a-hole. And his "I put so much into the relationship and get nothing out of it" when talking life insurance is alarming. I mean, we've seen enough forensic files to know what he meant. You dodged a heck of a bullet with that guy. The reality is, if you have primary custody after a divorce and pass away, most courts would grant a surviving parent custody. You did the right thing by ensuring your kids are still taken care of if that unfortunate event happens, especially since one child had health issues and the other has special needs. All the better that it at least sounds like you and your ex are able to co-parent. I can't possibly imagine that if something happened to you, Jake could have the kids' best interests at heart, and especially after his very telling reaction about the life insurance policy. Opie dodged a nuclear missile with the red flags Jake was waving around. I like how he was helpfully cleaning up her office and just happened upon her life insurance papers. Now for the mini update. So before I start with a little update, I want to say thank you for all the comments. I'm going to go through them all and try to reply even though it's a lot. I just want to address a few things. This did happen a few weeks ago and I did post in another group, but unfortunately got no advice on that subreddit. I'd left it for a few weeks before my ex suggested this one, because his words are, "Maybe these internet strangers would make you see sense and stop you thinking you're an a-hole. Also, could help you to see you shouldn't get back with Jake." Just wanted to clear that bit up. Firstly, I should have probably added this in the post. My ex and I are definitely not getting back together. We are very good friends, as I am with his husband. My ex always thought he was gay, but he is not from the UK and his parents would disapprove, which they have done so and cut ties with him. I was upset to start with, but loved them both dearly. I was even best woman at their wedding. So yes, I definitely am over my ex. My ex, his husband and I are currently having a lovely glass of wine and discussing the issues around Jake. For the people saying it's not right that I have my ex on my life insurance, let me just explain my point of view. Our son is autistic, so has a lot of issues around his autism. Our daughter, due to chemotherapy, is deaf in one ear and is currently in a wheelchair and has multiple appointments. I am very wealthy and my ex-partner is not. We opted to do private care to get the best for our children. I'm leaving him some money for our children and to help him and his husband financially if anything was to happen to me. I 10,000% trust my ex with our kids' money. My children will inherit all my properties and money. I do have a will, so everything in that sense is sorted. They have trust funds and never need to worry about their future. My life insurance is all my ex gets money from, and a few thousand from my own personal money, as does his husband. Now on to Jake. Currently, my ex, his husband and I are packing up Jake's things and they are going to take it to his parents' house. I informed his parents that Jake and I are no longer together and that we will drop off his stuff at their house. They were sad and wished me well as I did them. Jake continually called me and texted me, which I have ignored these past few weeks, and I ignored him. He has been pleading to me about taking him back and how much he loves me and my kids. However, just an hour ago, he sent the most vile messages I've ever had in my life, calling my daughter a spoiled dramatic little witch who uses her illness to get her way. He called my son some disgusting things, which I won't even repeat. At this point, I was done. I messaged him one final message, saying that if he continued to try reaching out to me, I will be filing for a protection order against him, and blocked him on all platforms. Also, I screenshotted the last message he sent and forwarded it to his ex and his family. I am very aware that it is petty, but I do not care. No one gets away with saying that about my children. I really think I will take a break from dating for a while and concentrate on me and my little family, which includes the father of my children and his husband. I'm so upset that there were red flags there that I just chose to ignore or was really oblivious to. Little edit. I know I said I wouldn't post what he said, but screw it. He's a horrible human and I've had a few glasses of wine. Lol. He called my daughter a cripple and called my son a retarded freak. So he can so screw himself. I'm probably just gonna leave this post now. Time to heal and focus on my beautiful kids. Thank you so much for all the comments and advice. I hope you are all blessed, and I appreciate everyone's opinions, advice, and support. I will definitely be taking a lot of points into my heart. Thank you. Last story. Am I the a-hole for calling my wife fat? Original post. I, 34 male, work in a physically demanding field. Myself and my coworkers are all fit people, without a lot of body type variety. My wife, 32 female, is fat. The thing is, she's always been fat. The whole time I've known her. We dated when she was fat, we got married when she was fat. She knows she's fat. She's fat and she's beautiful. I'm happy if she loses weight and I'm happy if she stays where she is. I think she's the most beautiful woman in the world as is. One of my coworkers, Julia, 28 female, started complaining that she's too fat to be loved. And fat people don't get to be loved. Julia isn't fat. She's maybe 120 pounds. She works out 5 times a week and barely ever eats. I told her that wasn't true and that my wife was fat. She got really red in the face and started telling me I wasn't allowed to call my wife fat, that I was insulting her and that my wife was beautiful and curvy. Carol doesn't like being called curvy. She thinks it's a label used to avoid calling people fat because it's a dirty word to most people. I told Julia as much, and she started threatening to tell my wife I called her fat. She pulled up her Instagram and told me she was messaging Carol that I was being mean. I beat her to the punch and called my wife, put her on speaker, and asked if she was curvy or fat. Carol laughed and said, I hate that curvy nonsense. Fat and beautiful, baby. I thanked her, told her I loved her, and hung up. As soon as I hit end, Julia went mental. She started screaming that I was abusing my wife. When I asked how, she said I was clearly brainwashing her into accepting the term fat, to try to keep her complacent and from getting away from me. That no woman in her right mind could be okay with her husband calling them fat. I showed her a picture of my wife in a shirt that had BBW on it. She bought it for herself, by the way. She stormed off, and hasn't spoken to me since. Now, I just walked in today to an email from HR requesting a meeting with me. I don't think it's a big deal. I have my wife's blog for fat positivity, the shirt, and can easily call her for proof. But now, things are frigid at work. And Julia constantly gives me dirty looks when we were in the same room. She ignores me otherwise. So I'm just over here scratching my head. Am I the a-hole for calling my wife fat? Now for the top comments before reading the update. The difference between your wife and Julia is that your wife loves herself. Julia can't even pretend to. Not the a-hole. Yep, the HR thing is wild. Imagine fishing for validation from a man, your married coworker, going off on him for loving his wife, threatening to DM her, and then reporting him to HR. Not the a-hole. If anything, Julia may be upset because she can't blame her insecurities on this idea of being fat. Or she uses this idea of body positivity to push others into expressing fat phobia she internalizes. Ding ding ding. The wildest thing is, Julia was fishing for validation from a married man, and then went off the deep end quickly. Julia is controlling, emotionally labile and passive-aggressive. Avoid and ignore as much as possible, OP. For reals, Julia was definitely fishing for compliments by calling herself fat, hoping the OP will confide about how his wife is fat and how he hates it. But she wasn't expecting OP to have a healthy marriage to a confident woman. Not the a-hole and your wife sounds awesome. Julia should get a better hobby because she sucks at fishing. My wife is the light of my life. She makes me smile every day and she's the reason I wake up in the morning. Thank you. But this is exactly why people stay so guarded at work these days. I'm 40, and when I first started working, the office culture was always work hard, play hard. And many coworkers were my friends. We'd go to the bar after work and things like that. About 5 years ago, I got written up for talking about how bad my neighbor I had just moved into was, and that I didn't feel safe walking alone at night and definitely wouldn't recommend a woman walking alone. I got written up because a coworker overheard this conversation and wasn't comfortable with the implied topic of rape. That's all it takes. No further action was taken, but I still have that hanging over my head. I know it's on record. I know there is an anonymous woman that is actively avoiding me pretending to have trauma. I am polite and professional with coworkers now, and they don't even know where I live anymore and nothing about my personal life. OP here did nothing wrong, but he did make a coworker uncomfortable. That's enough these days. It doesn't matter if that person has justification to be uncomfortable. They can claim in and then make it a problem for their employer by claiming hostile work environment and so on. Even unjustified, it's time and expense and risk for a company. So that is the way it is today. And now I work fully remote and companies no longer get my enthusiasm. And my coworkers do not get anything more than professionalism from me. I had a slightly different, yet very similar, experience. I didn't imply anything because I didn't say anything like any of what was later related by this woman. It simply didn't occur. Lots of people were right there, thank goodness. When I was approached about it, I offered reassurance that I wasn't even talking about any such thing. I was then told that I hadn't actually done anything wrong, but it was still a problem because the other person felt upset by what they thought they overheard me say. I've been working in an office for about 3 years and never had an office job. I knew from the jump to keep my mouth closed. Be nice, but don't do a lot of talking. I'm 6'3" black man. I don't know anything I say misconstrued. I work with mainly women and they all say I am the quiet one. Nice women, but they talk about some stuff sometimes not appropriate for work. Edit/update. So I met with HR at 4 today. Apparently, multiple coworkers who had overheard a conversation stopped by HR through the day to give their side and weigh in. I wasn't in trouble, they just wanted my side of things. It checked out with what everyone else has said too. I still don't know which of my crew stopped by, but I owe them my life. I offered to show my wife's blog and our rep, who is a really nice girl, told me that if it didn't affect my work, it was irrelevant. The story had been corroborated enough by others. HR reiterated a lot of what y'all said. Even though Julia initiated a conversation, I shouldn't have jumped in. It was less of a scolding and more of a request to keep my nose out of other people's business. I'm sad because I thought Julia and I were friends. We talked about our mental health struggles, the hardships of the field we're in, and heavy things like that. Won't be having those conversations any further. Julia and I will no longer be paired on teams for patient care. I was told my part in the investigation was done, and they thanked me for my time. So I think I'm going to be okay. Before I left, I told HR that if weight loss or body image wasn't supposed to be a topic of conversation, they should consider enforcing that on a company level. We have a weight loss challenge. I suggested making it a fitness challenge instead. She said they'd take it into consideration. So that's it. I wrapped up my treatments. Everything will hopefully shake out. Haven't spoken to Julia. Hoping to avoid her for the near future. Thank you all for the sanity check. Now to quote Clue, I'm gonna go home and sleep with my wife.